Percy Shelley was a poet, dramatist, essayist, and novelist. But before we move on deeper into his life and works, let's look at some fun facts. Firstly, as some of you may already know, his second wife was Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein. Moreover, he was also a very strict vegetarian. He wrote many pamphlets on the benefits of the vegetarian lifestyle. And thirdly, as most of us already know, he was very close friends with Lord Byron and John Keats, who were also very influential poets. However, on a more serious note, Percy Shelley was one of the most influential English Romantic poets. He played a major role during the Romantic movement, which occurred in the later half of the 18th century. Unfortunately, however, he never lived to see the extent of his success and influence. Most publishers and journals during his time declined to publish his work for the fear of being arrested, as most of his work include a lot of blasphemy. In fact, upon his death, he had a mere audience of 50 readers. However, today not only is he incredibly influential in literature, but also major movements in social and political thoughts. He's had a legacy and an influence on many great minds, as we will see later on. Now, a lot of central themes to Shelley's poetry were the same as those that defined Romanticism. Of these include the power and beauty of nature that was demonstrated through his works. They also included immortality versus mortality, atheism, as he was very doubtful of organized religion, heroic visionary role of the poet, inspiration and creativity, and even a lot of politics. In fact, what makes Shelley's work so remarkable are the use of themes which he uses as a philosophical relationship to his subject matter. As we talked about, Shelley has had an amazing influence on many great minds, musicians, thinkers, and writers that were alive way after him. Of these include C.S. Lewis, Karl Marx, George Bernard Shaw, Bertrand Russell, Samuel Barber, Yeats, Gregory Corso, and so much more. However, the most important thing for us as literature students is the relationship between Shelley and Keats, which is a really significant relationship because they were practically best friends forever. Shelley was already in voluntary exile in Italy when Keats sailed over for his health because of how worried he was for his friend. Shelley also wrote a beautiful elegy for Keats upon his death. In fact, Shelley and Keats were admirers of each other's works. Interestingly, there is a memorial house in Rome that is called Keats-Shelley Memorial, named after them together.